We have a courageous Jewish girl from New York who came here to speak. A small Jewish girl. A small Jewish girl who's not afraid to speak. Like Miriam, who spoke up for the Jewish people. Like Esther, who spoke up for the Jewish people. We have such people. People who may look small, but are giants among us. She's here. She's going to speak the truth. She writes a blog, Atlas Shrugs. She publishes books. She's an activist. She takes on organizations that promote Israeli Apartheid Week. And she puts up signs on the subway system in different cities in the United States. She's an activist. She's doing the work that must be done. We believe in that work. And we join, and we're partnering with her to continue to do even more work. She's here tonight. She's going to speak with you. She's going to answer questions. And she's nothing like our detractors say, a hate monger. She speaks the truth, and she's unafraid. So I want to welcome the one that you've been waiting for tonight, Pamela Geller.
Wow. First, I want to thank Mayor Weinstein for his unwavering, unflinching, loyal, steadfast, and true support. Every time I have to speak, this happens. And I've seen the best of men, rarely, and I've seen the worst of men, often. And you are very fortunate to have a leader like Mayor Weinstein. And Yossi Winter. Who stepped up? Who stepped up? I will tell you who stepped up. I will tell you that the Canadian people stepped up. I am in awe of you. In awe. If you told me that the largest newspaper in the nation's capital in America wrote an op-ed in support of me, I would have had you Baker acted. I would have committed you to the nearest institution. But the Ottawa Citizen did. And Mark Stein wrote not one, not two, but three times. Ezra, need I say more? We don't have this in America. Maybe it's because we have the First Amendment and that seems to be everybody's default position. But what good is a piece of paper if you're not going to enforce it? We are at war. We are at war in the information battle space, in the war of ideas. And the war is raging. All the bullets, the bombs, and bloodshed comes as a result of what happens in this war. And we're losing. I must tell you, we're losing. You cannot rely on anybody to win this war. You will have to win this war. Our side is driven by reason. Reason. And reason requires freedom. Reason requires the freedom to think. Any intellectual movement requires freedom. And without freedom of speech, all is lost. And what we saw happen in Canada was small-time power lusters imposing their arbitrary standards vis-a-vis the police. I have to say, even for me, that was new. And while I don't fault the rabbis so much, disappointed, clearly, but I can tell you that a small, righteous rabbi is not equipped for a jackbooted thug who comes in and strong-arms him. Trust me. And believe me, the Chabad understands. The Chabad is the touchstone in the jihadist world. For some reason, because they're so devout, because they're so happy, because they're so Jewish, everything they hate. If you read the transcripts of the text between the jihadis in Mumbai and Central, which was connected to ISI in Pakistan, you know that the slaughter of the Jews was the primary goal. You know that 22 months before Mumbai, that was the first target picked and the most important. The tiny Chabad house. I'm not going to go into what they did to the rabbi, Holzberg and Rifker, and how they sexually mutilated them. I'm not going to discuss it with you. But I'm going to tell you that it's probably why the Chabad in Great Neck in Long Island, when a different synagogue caved to pressure, he stood up and he had me speak. Because certain Jews understand the threat. Other Jews do not understand the threat. Today, the Toronto Board of Rabbis came out with a statement condemning me.
Horrible.
Now, let me tell you what's so egregious about this. They've never contacted me. They didn't cite one quote from me. Not one. I have 3 books. I have hundreds of articles. I have written 26,000 plus posts. Not one quote. But they will give chum to the sharks by pitting Jew against Jew. You could have written me a private note, right? You could have contacted me. No. Instead, they came to very people that vowed their annihilation. But our people have been plagued with these quislings, have we not?
Yes.
Community standards, according to Little Ricky. Little Ricky, Inspector Little Ricky Verrican. Community standards, the definition of which, I don't know. What is it that he opposes of my values? Does he support gender apartheid? Does he support creed apartheid? Does he support FGM? Does he support honor violence and honor killing? What standard, Little Ricky, did I violate? You small-time power luster. And can you see this thug going into the office of the rabbi? I mean, the rabbi must have had visions of the early pogroms. Isn't that how they started? Right? The police come to the town, beat up on the little rabbi. That's where you're going. And I'm enormously impressed with how you stood up, that this room is completely filled. I understand there's another room somewhere that's completely filled. You are righteous. You are righteous, you are brave, and you are right. To the Toronto Board of Rabbis, I say, it is the mission. It is the mission of the Yehudim to speak the truth. Shame on you. Shame on you. They are guilty of Lashon Hara, of the evil gossip that is a lie. I'd like to discuss a number of things with you. Primarily, I think that, first of all, I want you to understand that this pursuit of this fantasist policy that we are seeing in the West, and I do not put your Prime Minister Harper in there. He's a unique and singular leader. He has, in the absence of the United States of America, assumed the mantle for the leader of freedom in the world. President Obama is pursuing an anti-freedom policy an anti-freedom, pro-jihadist policy. I'm not trying to be controversial, but truth is the new hate speech. And just telling the truth is a revolutionary act. We have seen him abandon the people of Iran, the only freedom revolution in June, July, and August of 2009. And why was it the only freedom revolution? Because they've been living under the boot of the Sharia since 1979. He abandoned them. They were holding signs, Obama, you're either with us or against us. A play on the Bush doctrine. He did nothing. He ignored it. And then what happens? Our ally of 30 years, the first Muslim country to make a peace with Israel and keep the peace with Israel. He throws onto the bus with both hands and demands and imposes that the Muslim Brotherhood take over. And that was not an accident, because 5 months into his presidency, when he went to make his apology tour at Al-Azhar University in Cairo, he invited the Muslim Brotherhood to his speech in Cairo. Now understand something, the Muslim Brotherhood had been banned in Egypt. Banned. Mubarak was beside himself. But Obama was meeting, his mid-level cabinet officials were meeting with Muslim Brotherhood all through 2009 through 2010. So what happened in January 2011 was no accident. What happened in Libya was no accident. Now, I'm not going to be a cheerleader for Gaddafi, but believe it or not, there's worse. And what was America doing in Libya anyway? We don't get our oil from there. The French do. Let the French fight. Where were we putting ourselves there? And what did we get? We got a Sharia government. And what else did you get? You got a fallen. You know, it's the reverb. Mali became a terrorist state. Tunisia fell. Morocco fell. You think this is all happening in a vacuum and this is static? This is catastrophic. Whole swaths of the Middle East and Africa are falling to Islamic supremacist regimes. And they're telling me to shut up. As if you shut me up, they're not going to kill you. He scrubbed all of our counterterrorism materials and manuals of jihad. He scrubbed our terrorism, counterterrorism manuals of jihad, and speakers that would normally speak who were informed, whether it was Robert Spencer or Ibn War, were banned from speaking. So what happens? Boston. Boston happens. You have not one, but two governments. You have Russia warning the FBI, and when the FBI ignored the Russian warnings of these jihad bombers, they went to the CIA. You had Saudi Arabia. I mean, talk about the mother of jihadis, you know, warning us. Now, Islamic supremacist groups in America, you have them here. Muslim Brotherhood groups, like CARE. And I'm not saying that to be controversial. In America, we had the largest terrorist funding trial in our nation's history, the Holy Land Foundation trial, where CARE and ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, and the Muslim Student Association, and the Muslim Student Union, and the Islamic Circle of North America were named as unindicted co-conspirators and Muslim Brotherhood groups. It's not me. This is what the U.S. government says. They're demanding that these programs, these counterterrorism programs, and let me tell you, very successful counterterrorism programs, because this is what I do. This is what I do. I, every day at Atlas Shrugs, write about news stories pertaining to jihad. And I can tell you that in America, we're thwarting attacks every week. Every week. And I did on a radio show with some radio host in Canada last week, and when I referred to the jihad that was attack that was thwarted here between Toronto and New York over the Niagara, and then we hear recently that they also they were talking about a bacterial attack targeting 100,000 people. The radio host says, you can't call it a jihad. That's controversial. So when jihadists say, quote, Quranic chapter and verse, when they say it, it's not hate speech. But when I repeat it, it's hate speech. This is a recipe for disaster. We're really in uncharted territory here. And the media is aligned with the jihad force. We see this. They will not speak to motive. You are not allowed to address motive. How they would turn themselves inside out with these boys. Oh, you know, they came to America and it was not a good experience for them. It was not a good experience for them. They had scholarships, they had Camaros, they were beating up women left and right. Sounds to me like they were having a party. Every excuse in the world. But what they say it is, the younger brother, Jokar, or Joker as I like to call him, said he did it to defend Islam. He said it. This is scary stuff because this is fluid and becoming more and more emboldened, and we're not allowed to talk about it. And the media is shilling lapdogs for jihadists. So part of what I do, apart from the blog, where you see, I mean, everyone says, oh, this is my favorite lie, media lie. Oh, this was the first successful attack since 9/11. Do you have any idea how many attacks we've thwarted? I started to chronicle it at Atlas, and I gave up in May 2012. It was too much. The myriad subway attacks. One, on the anniversary, it was supposed to be, quote unquote, according to Ray Kelly, spectacular, blowing up the subways. And on the same day that Obama is addressing the UN, talking about the gravest threat to humanity, global warming. It's like God is a comedian playing to an audience with no sense of humor. Same day. There was a cyanide attack. There was an attempt to blow up the Holland Tunnel. There was an attempt to blow up the Wall Street Exchange. A month ago, there was a 1,000-pound bomb plot that was thwarted to blow up the Federal Reserve Building. This is just New York. And the Fort Hood Jihad, workplace violence. It's an insult. It shows utter contempt for the American people. And Benghazi is treason, and he should be impeached. They begged before for reinforcements, and they begged during the attack. 2 Marines on a roof against an army, and they held them off for 7 hours. And like Greg Hicks said, when testifying this week, he said, "We are utterly alone." That's not us.
Disgusting.
That's not America. That's not America. Let me tell you what America is. America will not leave a fallen soldier. We will not leave a dead soldier. And American troops and coalition troops and Canadian troops in Afghanistan are sitting ducks, crippling Sharia rules of engagement. Crippling. And the Navy SEALs that took out Osama bin Laden, and Obama's crowing that he took out Osama bin Laden, giving away all our secrets. The parents held a press conference this week. It was to break the heart. And they said that it was because they were exposed that they were targeted. That's why they were targeted, and that whole helicopter went down. In the cheapest helicopter with an untrained pilot, and they were not allowed to return fire. And the insult of all insults was at the funeral in Afghanistan. No Judeo or Christian presence was allowed. They had an imam who made an Arabic prayer, an Islamic prayer, damning them to hell. Damning them to hell. Impeach.
Yeah.
So there's a war raging in the information battle space. The enemy demonizes, marginalizes, and destroys the few voices of freedom that will speak. We have some of them in the audience here. I must tell you that Kathy Shadle and Arnie national treasures.
Yes.
This is the real media. This is the real media. Scaramouche, there's a number of bloggers. If I were naming you, I know that the link love is very important, but forgive me. You have the real media here. They are the real media. They are doing, and it's thankless, and you certainly ain't making no money. But it's a love of freedom. It's a calling. Because once you know, if you don't do anything, you're guilty. You're guilty. And so, the problem with the blogosphere is that you're limited to a particular audience. And the people on the big right, they stay away from this subject matter. The big right-wing blogs stay away because it's toxic. Look at this. Look what they've done. They ruined me. They ruined my name, my reputation, my credibility. But I know I'm right. And I know I'm good. You know? So I work in the streets. You know, when we opposed the ground zero mosque, you were there. This is why I mean, it's you. We had 40,000 people in the street on 9/11. And we had no big advertising. We had no big media behind us. We had you. You will save you. You make the difference. So we rally, and then, in order to leapfrog over the media, I do ad campaigns. And understand that all of my ad campaigns are a response to a campaign. People say, oh, she's such a provocateur. You know, I literally saw hundreds of anti-Israel ads. Hundreds. In every city in my country, okay, calling for NWSA to Israel, calling Israel an apartheid state, calling Israel this aggressive, you know, they were libelous actually, saying that they had stolen land, and the typical Islamic narrative. And so I took an ad campaign, I took 10 ads, okay, 10 little Indians. And the ad was, in any war between the civilized man and the savage, support the civilized man. Support Israel to defeat jihad. Madness. OMG. What a media firestorm. What insanity. I mean, first of all, they said the ad was anti-Muslim. Can someone point to Muslim here? They said it was anti-Islam. Can someone point to Islam here? Any war on innocent civilians is savagery. The war on Israel is a war targeting innocent civilians. The rockets from Gaza targeting schools and homes is savagery. The slaughter of the Fogel family in the middle of the night, beheading a 3-month-old baby, is savagery. Blowing up a bus in Bulgaria of Jewish women and children is savagery. 9/11 was savagery. 3/11 was savagery. 7/7 was savagery. Mumbai, Bali, Boston. This is savagery. But they can't say that because most normal, rational, reasoned folks would agree with me. So they immediately say I meant all Muslims. I know, because I fight for Muslims. I fight for Muslim girls who are stuck in households with devout families that want to kill them. I will put my record up on saving Muslim girls to Kaz record of saving Muslim girls. Or ISNA's record of saving Muslim girls. I can tell you that when Rivka Barry, who was a little teenage girl in Ohio, who left Islam and hid it from her family, she hid it from her family for close to 4 years. But what happened? Her mosque spied on her. The Noor Mosque spied on her and told her parents, and her father threatened to kill her, and she ran away. Well, this became such a firestorm in America, you don't know. Meanwhile, millions of girls run away in America. They're selling their bodies for drugs. Nobody cares. This little virgin ran away from Islam, and the whole country is on fire. And CARE made it their business to demonize and marginalize this little girl, calling her a radical Christian fundamentalist. What is that? Someone who loves Jesus? No, really, what is, when they say, oh, there's all kinds of religious extremism. Really? I never saw a Christian running around blowing himself up screaming, Jesus Akbar. And they go back decades to Timothy McVeigh. He didn't kill in the name of Jesus.
No.
I never saw a Jew blow anything up and say, Hashem Akbar. It's a lie. It's a big fat lie. And the fact of the matter is that peaceful Muslims should stand with me. I oppose the jihad, and I oppose the brutal and most oppressive ideology on the face of the earth. They should stand with me. They come to free countries to live free lives. You don't impose restrictions on free speech like that Islamic cleric who was gloating to his congregation that I had been canceled. Condemning me. Why isn't he condemning the Canadian jihadi who wanted to blow up the train over Toronto to New York? But I'm the bad guy. Right, Toronto Board of Rabbis? Where's the Toronto Board of Rabbis on the hadiths and the Quranic quotes that call for the annihilation of the Jews? Where's their statement condemning those hadiths and those Islamic texts and teachings? I want to see it. Shame on you. What you probably didn't hear about is, in addition to that campaign, 100 ads ran on the back of buses that said, not just, okay, in any war between a civilized man, support the civilized man, defend the Nigerian Christians. They're being slaughtered en masse by jihadists. Support our troops. They're being slaughtered by jihadists. Support America. Oh, I love her. Support the Coptic Christians. Support Thailand. The Buddhists are being slaughtered. But people don't know this. So this campaign got an enormous amount of publicity, and while it was vicious and it was vile, and I was named a racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigot, I did get to go on television. It's not about me being on television, because if I want to be on television, I'd rather be singing, okay? It's not like that. It's that to get the message to the people. And if you want to see a very interesting exchange, I was on with Erin Burnett, and you can see us debate this ad. And I got so much mail after that by people who never hear it. That's why I do these ads. To teach people that are only getting the tripe and the garbage that the media is piling on. Now, in response to my savage campaign, the Muslim Brotherhood group CARE decided to respond. It's like shooting fish in a barrel with these guys. And they created a campaign called the My Jihad campaign. They're rebranding jihad. And the ad is a girl, in a hijab, and she says, my jihad is getting to the gym every day. My jihad is making friends. I kid you not. This is a propaganda campaign. This is a psyop. So I did a My Jihad campaign. I took 5 high-profile Muslims with their direct quotes. I took the Times Square bomber, and he said, jihad, holy fighting in Allah's cause with full force of numbers and weaponry is an obligation and duty in Islam and on every Muslim. That's his jihad. What's yours? The 4-foot jihadi. Reloading, firing again, reloading, firing again while screaming Allahu Akbar. That was a victim of a major Hassan workplace violence. Yeah. Here is a man who came out on grand rounds, made his presentation. I use his presentation. That's how good it is. He was wearing the garb of the shaheed, of the martyr, the day of his jihad. He was handing out Qurans on the morning of his jihad. His business card said, Soldier of Allah, and this is workplace violence. You know how scary it is to be in America now? Think about it. Then, let me just tell you something. So I run this campaign everywhere they're running. My jihad is, not burning my toast in the morning. I run my campaign in every city. And I get to San Francisco, and the San Francisco City Council convenes a big press conference, the whole council, to condemn little old me. And a blogger, no one in the press said, wait a second, You're condemning Geller, but do you condemn what they're saying in the ads? Do you condemn it? No, they don't condemn that. It's truth. I'm not editorializing. I'm not giving my opinion. This is what it is. What it is. I have the Prime Minister of Turkey saying the mosques are our fortresses, the minarets are our bayonets, and the Muslims are our soldiers. That's his jihad. What's yours? So when, and of course I had to do Osama, you know, because it's important that you understand that Osama in 1998, according to Islamic teaching, invited us to Islam. They have to do that before they kill you. And he said the first thing that we are calling you is to Islam. Now, you know, Ahmadinejad did that with Bush. So we're in free fall as we speak. So when San Francisco, which is the mecca for the gay community, this was the Prime Minister. Okay. When they did that, I started a new campaign. I started a new campaign highlighting Muslim oppression of homosexuals. And I ran it only in San Francisco. You have Ahmadinejad saying homosexual is ugly. In Iran, we don't have homosexuals like in your country. And I have Sheikh Karazawi also saying the death penalty for homosexuality under the Sharia is death. That's the penalty. Now, they came out against these ads. Now, this is where it gets totally Orwellian, crazy. You can't make this stuff up. The leader of the Human Rights Commission that condemned me is a transgender. So here is this very masculine, now woman, condemning me and actually saying that it's actually easier to get a transgender operation under insurance in Iran than in America. And when the press came to me with that and said, you know, she said this, and I have all the videos up, so you don't have to take my word for it. I said, do you know why it's easier to get a transgender operation under insurance in Iran? Because you're not allowed to be gay in Iran. They make you cut your junk off. Not every gay man wants to be a woman. So this is what we're up against. This is the disconnect. It's a true story. Now the latest campaign that just went up this week is a response to the Israeli apartheid. I mean, again, these ads calling Israel apartheid, it is, again, defies logic. It's when we were living in an age of anti-reason. We're reasonable people. We're thinking people. Truth is the recognition of reality. And you can avoid reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. And Israel, who has members of their Knesset that are Muslim calling for the death of Israel on the floor of the Knesset, that hold these huge gay parades, and so on and so forth. This is an apartheid state, but there's not a Jew. Practically, there's not a Jew in Yemen anymore. I mean, the Jews had to flee, close to 1 million, right, after the establishment of the State of Israel. So what I did is, in response to this, you know, Israeli apartheid, stop U.S. aid to Israel, I did a series of ads that said, this is Islamic apartheid. Stop U.S. aid to Islamic states. This just went up. Here, this is a picture of the highway sign in Saudi Arabia. This is the actual highway sign showing one way for Muslims, and the other way you have to get off. No non-Muslims in Mecca. That's apartheid. That's apartheid. Now, usually, just so that you know, I bring little billboards with me so you can see it much better. But I was afraid I'd get stopped for hate speech at customs, so I swear, I took copies, because I do have to get home, not that I don't love it. This is Islamic apartheid. This is an actual photo of gay men being hanged, and it says, gays under Islamic law. Stop USA to Islamic states. This is a woman being whipped in Indonesia, and it says in many Islamic countries, rape victims are tortured or killed if they don't marry their rapist. That's true, you know. You know how many women are rotting? The majority of women that are rotting in Afghan jails is because they were raped. So these, I think, again, now the media hasn't covered these. Because in a way they know that even though it's hostile, and I don't mind that it's hostile, this is war. All is fair in love and war. I'm not going to whine that the playing field is not fair. My line in the sand is freedom of speech, because I know my ideas are better. I know it. Mine is not a religious issue. The premise, the font of all of my ideas is individual rights. And I was born in a country, the first moral government in the history of the world, the first government ever that was based on individual rights, the principle of individual rights. And everything noble and brilliant and magnificent that we achieved as a nation was a logical fidelity to that principle. And it's in trouble. And I'm going to fight. And that's why I do what I do. And so anyone that says that I am anti-Muslim is just, again, smearing, defaming. They're implying that all Muslims support jihad. That's what they're implying. And also the media is making it impossible for any Muslims that would actually stand up. Look, when the Christmas underwear bomber was arraigned in Detroit, remember that he had a bomb in his sack? And he sat in row 19A so that it would explode over the fuel tanks. Everyone talks about, oh, these are just crazy. They know exactly what they're doing. So when he was arraigned in Detroit, there was a small group of Muslims that were protesting against him. It wasn't a lot. Okay, it's all good. And I'm going to tell you, the organizer of that small rally had not one, not two, but 3 death fatwas on his head within 24 hours. And who does the media go to? They go to all of the Islamic supremacists who, according to an internal captured document in that Holy Land Foundation trial, their stated goal is to eliminate and destroy Western civilization from within. And they are doing it. They are doing it because the Toronto Board of Rabbis is condemning me, not them. And the fact is, I don't worry about the fanaticism of the enemy. I worry about the confusion on our side.
Yeah.
You know, when CARE did a campaign, they did a campaign in D.C., against me, of course, showing a young girl. It's always the same young girl in the hijab. I never understand why a young girl has to be in a hijab. Why is she covering up? She's not a sex object. Young girl in hijab next to a Quranic verse that's been abrogated, by the way, because you know about abrogation. The first stage was peaceful. The second stage is defensive jihad. And, of course, the third stage is offensive jihad. And when asked about it, Muhammad was asked, you contradict yourself from over here, peaceful, to here, you know, which is it? And he said, whatever comes later is supersedes, abrogates. Now you ask any Islamic scholar about abrogation. Abrogation is very much a part of Islamic doctrine. So they use an abrogated verse, you know, about show forgiveness, avoid ignorance. The only thing missing from that ad was my picture next to avoid ignorance. So I did an ad campaign. Soon shall we cast terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. Next to the towers, this verse was which inspired a number of the 19 Islamic jihadists. And of course, and where did I place these? I bought every single clock in the New York City subway system. Every lit up clock. There was the clock ticking, there was this. Clock ticking, there. So that's why I do what I do. I do what I do so that you understand. It's to educate the people. And why is that so important to me? Because it's the answer. When people say, oh, what can I do? What can I do? Plenty. First of all, I don't know what it is about this problem that people say, oh, it's overwhelming, you know, I can't solve, it's global, I can't solve it. Why does everyone you don't look at your life like that. A doctor, when he's treating the patients, he doesn't say, I can't cure the whole world. You don't have to cure the whole world. You have a sphere of influence. You have a certain amount of people that you reach. Speak. Speak everywhere, anywhere, every time, in any legitimate form. You don't need a national platform. You know during the course of your day, you hear things that you know are wrong. You know it. And you don't say anything. Start speaking. You don't need to convert everyone. History is made by minorities. And I mean that in terms of intellectual movements. That's you and that's me. Look, there's a third of the people you ain't never going to reach. You know, when Stalin died and they opened up the gulags and they were releasing political prisoners, there were political prisoners that started weeping. Not from happiness, they were actually sad that Stalin was dead, the guy that put them there. Those people, you're never going to reach. But you will reach people that can think critically and don't have the information because, look, how many maniacs like me live online? I mean, you know, I am on a mission because I grew up free. I never questioned my freedom. I assumed my freedom. I loved my country, I loved my life, I was the quintessential New York City girl, I had a great career, I loved my fashion, I loved my music, I loved my life. And I thought we were living in a post-historical age because the good guys had won, and the good cop was on the beat, and there would be skirmishes, and maybe we weren't perfect, but we were as good as it was ever going to get historically. And then 9/11 happened, and I felt guilty that I didn't know who would attack my country. And when I found out, I felt guilty that I didn't understand who would attack my country. And I spent the ensuing years reading Ibn Warwick and Bachayur and David Lippman and Robert Spencer. And I don't come to this party for any other reason but to save the world. Seriously, to save the world. First, learn everything. That's my advice to you. First, learn everything. Forget about politics. You happen to be very fortunate with your prime minister, and I would do everything in my power to keep him in power. Because politics is the rearview mirror. I'm not concerned. People want to know why I don't run. I don't know that I'll ever get elected dog catcher, but it's not the point. Politics is the rearview mirror. It's like they put their finger in the air. If it's not something that's going to hurt them politically or votes, they're not going to do it. It's the culture we have to change. If this is what we have to do, we have to change the culture. And when I say you should speak and you should talk, that is how public opinion is made. Truly. And that's why it's so critical. Look, when they flew those planes into those towers, were they wearing uniforms? Were they all soldiers? Were they all fighters? No. Yes. In this war, yes. And that's you. And you're a soldier. And you're a fighter. And if you're not going to do anything about it, you've surrendered. And that is why your role is so critical here. You have a sphere of influence. And you have an email. Now, I know that some people you email right back to you and say, leave me alone with this stuff already. You're crazy. It doesn't matter. Just keep sending it. Just keep talking. You are right. And you are righteous. You're here tonight. And don't you know that you're all racist, Islamophobic, anti-Muslim bigots? When that that young girl who was murdered by her family because she wouldn't wear the hijab, and she was in an unmarked grave. And it irked me so that at Atlas and other blogs raised the money to put up a gravestone. Not a political gravestone. I can tell you, because it was all ready to go. I was working with Mr. Phillips at the cemetery, and the stone was beautiful stone, a marble stone said, Aqsa Parvez, beloved, remembered, and free. That's it. That's it. We raised $4,000, and at the last minute I was told, we can't do it. I said, why? He said, the family. I said, okay, give me the number for the family. I'll make whatever changes the family wants. I called the family, and I said, hi, we raised money, we want to put the stone in, I understand you're not entirely happy with it, what can I do? And I will do it. And the woman on the phone said, I don't speak English, and hung up on me. All right, so I said, okay. So I called the secretary, I said, we'll raise the money and buy the plot next door. No, they said we can't do it. I said, okay, I'll buy a rock, a tree, a leaf. No, I couldn't do it because it was owned by the Islamic Society of North America. So all of a sudden, something that would be so simple became a huge problem. Then there were people in Canada scouting locations. It was really great, actually. It was fantastic. And one of my readers found a location at the Arboretum at the University of Guelph. Is that how you say it? Guelph? Yeah. What? And one of my readers was a horticulturalist, and he designed the garden, and we had different flowering bushes 4 times a year, and the rock, and the bench, and really, so lovely. And had me send a check, and then I got a letter from the University of whatever that said, I'm sorry, we can't do this, it's too political. A memorial for a girl is too political. But it speaks to you that I was able to raise the money. It speaks to you that you're here tonight. It speaks to you that there was an overwhelming response to these jackbooted thugs at the York Region Police. Believe me, they did not have a good couple of weeks. Nor should they. And nor should they. You know, it's funny. I always had a fondness in my heart for Canada because my first kiss was in Miami Beach when I was like 14 years old by a French Canadian. And it was, you know, it was one of those I'm talking about like 7,000 years later. But I'm just saying that I've always had a very warm and delicious feeling towards this country. And, you know, you did not disappoint. Actually, you delivered on Serge's kiss. And I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for coming. And I want to thank you for fighting the great fight.